Greetings, all. I am Vanna, and welcome to Vibes with the Archive.
And I'm Kymmy, and today's topic is lucid dreams and astral travel for episode number 9. And for number 1, might as well get this out of the way, is Metatron. Metatron is the scribe. He is the one who keeps a record and documents everything that happens throughout all of the dimensions and fabric of space and time continuum. If you're us talking right now, he's writing it down. Person down the street, he knows about it. He would be the best for a gossip column, but he doesn't have time, unfortunately, because he's busy working on building the Akashic Records, which is a metaphorical, energetic library. It's a spiritual dimension where it contains all of the recorded experiences, thoughts, and words. Um, it's the word is Sanskrit for akasha, which is for the word ether or ather or sky. So it's like almost like they played on a little joke like of like cloud, but it originally is called the sky, and it's an infinite space. If any of you have watched the movie Epic, they did a really good play on this where the I think he was a slug as well, or he is just known as the record keeper, and the Fae who passed away, and she went to the records and she got to rewatch from the queen's point of view when she went to the record keeper to see what the queen had told her because she was too big at the time to hear her. Either way, not too many spoilers, but if you want to see it's shown a pretty good concept of what it is, you can check it out in the movie Epic.
It's
That's
actually the
my
second time that movie has come across my record today. That's
it,
that's
I
wow.
did I tend to do that a lot. I like that. But yes, and it is a part of the scribe, and he's an archangel. You may recognize him as well. He is known as like for messengers, and if you want to be introduced into your own Akashic record, you can petition to work with him if you feel more comfortable than working by yourself, or with deities that you can call upon your side if you already work with them to help you go through. And you all have the key to your own paths and or parallel lives, I should say. That's how I feel because time doesn't exist. Everything is happening simultaneously at the same time. But to go into that more, we will talk more on it later. But I did want to bring up the concept of the Akashic Records in the Hall of Amenti. The Hall of Amenti is the hidden realm in between the third dimension and the fifth dimension, where the community of like ghosts and other realmed, uh, you know, entities where they tend to exist and have thriving communities and their own rules and stuff. But it is also known where you can enter with the emerald tablets of Thoth to be placed between the physical and spiritual realm, but it is also where you enter to pass through when you die and for rebirth. So you may also meet a lot of the other realms and underworld deities there as well that you may work well with because they are the holders of the other realms, especially Egyptian underworld.
So,
But yeah.
question for you, Kimmy. When we
Mhm.
have our end of life review and we see the effect of our actions and the karmic energy impact that we have done on people, is that something that takes place in the Hall of Amenti?
Yes, yes, it does. You'll meet up with Anubis there, and you're actually the one in charge. Anubis is just there to like formalities, someone needs to be there to be the guy. And you're the one who decides, and you review your own life and you decide for yourself and place with judgment. It presides over by Osiris and the funeral deities. Um, as well. There's also like the new way of thinking is the realm of reincarnation, the place where the soul is either passed beyond this life. That's where some people would call it, instead of the halls of Amenti, new day and age, you would call this the fourth dimension and the fifth and the seventh and the all the way up to the 12th. Um, the halls of Amenti would be in the fourth, but the Akashic Records holds information from all the different realms, all of the different dimensions. So I don't want to make you feel like it's limited to only the 4D. You can get information when your own higher self is ready to reveal it from any of those dimensions. The divine dimension even. So you're not limited and you can look into all your different types of lives. Of course, there's QHHT sessions, whereas like quantum hypnosis therapy, uh, healing therapy. That's the next one. I was like quantum hypnosis, healing therapy, and other lives, like doing other life regressions and meditations that you can look into. For starters, if you don't want to work with Metatron or you're just not into that kind of vibe and you want to work on it with yourself, you trust yourself the most, which is very grounding. I applaud you. Um, you may notice from, modern media, it's very common to hear a thing called a mind palace. So if you wanted to start off with making a mind palace, that's one of the ways I get it. I personally, being going from religious to scientific to alchemy to a lot of other things of crafts. It's one of the ways I got into it. It's like your happy place. And honestly, from the movie Peter Pan, think of a happy thought and your happy thoughts and getting, to that higher vibrational thinking is one of the ways to get into it. Another way is to think your way through the past. So, if Dana, if you want to explain your favorite way of leading into the Akashic records or the other worlds as well, then after we could like share a few of like our stories of like times where we've traveled, or of course like premonitions and lucid dreams.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. So
mhm.
what you have to know about the Akashic records, like Kimmy was saying, it's the kind of like a scroll of everything that has ever happened in every possible timeline. When you think about like Loki and at the end of season 2, it's been out for a while. I don't really think this is spoilers. But at the end of season 2, he's grabbing all the threads of the timeline because no matter how big they made the loom, timelines would just keep expanding. So he has to hold them all. And you can think about that like the Akashic records. And so when I'm working on something and I'm doing a meditation or I'm visiting otherworld, I don't often know that I'm doing this because I'm not as inclined to this ability as, say, my mother is. But you have to have a goal for at least for going into the Akashic records because it's infinite knowledge. And you can't just be in there like, show me something. I'm like, okay, I could show you something. Here's a video of a cat. Here's the fall of ancient Rome, and here's the Lumerian people burning. What did you
Yep.
want to see? You have to have a goal. So, one thing that I personally have been working on very closely is healing my inner teenager. And this is separate from the inner child. This is the you that you are developing when your ego is becoming more independent from your family unit. And this is where a lot of trauma, self doubt, and shame can occur because you can only do your best until you know better and then do better. But there are a lot of people that will want to punish us our entire lives for the things that we did as teenagers. So, and one of the things that I'm doing, I will approach a library. This particular library looks like the library from my elementary school, which holds a very special place to me. And I will go amongst the stacks of the encyclopedias and the fiction and the nonfiction, and I will find the aisle that has the book of Savvy, which is what I called my teenager self. And I will find that book, and sometimes Savvy will appear there as sort of like a ghost. Sometimes she'll be there beside me. Sometimes I will become her and step into that old ego or step into that old form. And this allows you to see, like Kimmy was saying, a mind palace saying, if you remember seeing Sherlock, it's a memory technique so that you can go
Mhm.
back to some of your most important memories, some of your most painful memories. But like for Sherlock and Redbeard, it's something that he blocked because it was painful for him to remember the loss of his childhood friend. It wasn't a dog; it was his best friend as a child that became unalived by his psychotic sister. But that's a different story for Sherlock. It's a great show. But the mind palace is to go back and to remember something. And I use this to alchemize, to heal, to learn from that version of myself, to protect that version of myself from what hurt them, to remove the negativity, to remove the threads of shadows from others. Monitoring spirits come in a lot with this because monitoring spirits specifically in the sense of someone's ego or energy watching you, but they can only watch the version of you that they knew. So the more you grow and the more you develop, you also pull yourself out of the grasp of the people that are trying to harm you. And one point in the Akashic records is you'll see like the relationships that you've had with people and why they have come in. For example, there's someone in my personal bloodline that is a abuser and had taken advantage of me at a very young age. And so everything in society in the 3D world will say that I have to love and forgive this person, but that is not something that I am willing to do for the sake of my soul. There's a Troy song coming into my head, God's Not Home. Highly recommend looking that up. It is a beautiful song. But literally it was saying like I'm not going to be hurt again. I love you, I recognize your soul, and I do recognize their soul, and I do genuinely hold a love for them because they are family, but I am also not allowing them to hurt me again and again and again. And in these Akashic records, I can make those powerful affirmations and claims, and that's directly being spoken into the universe. That's a very powerful manifestation technique or protection. And all of this happens in Otherworld, which is I think it's a little different for everyone because of what they personally need in this lifetime. But in my experience, Otherworld is the in between place where I'm not quite touching spirit source, but I'm not in the third dimension physical world. I am where I would say my higher self is. I have a house here. It's a cottage with a stained glass door, and the door on it looks like the African savannah because my name is Savannah. And depending on my mood and energy, that will change. If I am in a peaceful time, it will look prosperous and the river is flowing. If I am in a tumultuous time, it looks more like when Scar took over the Pride Lands in Lion King. It's a very important movie to me personally. I personally think, and speaking of past lives, I lived in the continent of Africa in a past life. I'm not claiming to be anything or anyone. That is a completely different journey. I just have such a close connection to the African savannah, the animals there, the beautiful culture, especially the giraffes. Giraffes are personally a indicator of my grandmother's best friend, Chi Chi. So whenever I see a giraffe, I immediately know that's one of my messengers. but in the other world that you can do a lot of healing in things. Like for example, in my house, in my mental space, there's a lot of half walls, and this is an indicator to the barriers that I have put up between the people that get into the deeper rooms of my house. Like, you may know me, but you can only come into my garden. You're not allowed into my house. Or you can come into my house, but you can only come into like the foyer or the sitting room. You're not allowed in the parlor. You're not allowed in my crafting room where my mom squad hangs out, and you're certainly not going in the fucking attic.
Yep. It's all for yourself. The other world is yourself, or you slip to and make your personal thing. I love how you were like how you go back and talk to yourself. It reminds me of a TV show that was up here called Being Erica, which in each one of her therapist sessions, her therapist was like some sort of supernatural being. Whenever she went to her therapist, she would walk out the door and would be in the day that she had the regret of not like sticking up for herself, or she wished she had said something. And each episode will work on a different part of her life that she wanted to work through. And it would go, and it was super cool. I just thought it was super cool that that lined up there. And for premonitions, uh which aren't exactly the same as like um is like fortune telling, right? Premonitions are like deja vu feelings. They're things that have happened on a parallel timeline that is about to happen. And also like some premonitions are like spirit's way of warning you, or your higher self's way of preparing you for something that's about to happen in the physical realm. Well, this could be good things, they could be bad things, they could be everything in between. One of them that I've had I've had a few of them. A few of them that I've had was I kept having uh I had a dream where I was asleep and like woke up, and my mom was inside of the bathroom, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I lost my wedding ring down the sink. I'm getting it back." And she like showed me to turn off the water. I used a wrench to open up the parts so that and pour it into a bucket so that she could retrieve her ring. 3 weeks later, it's the holidays. I'm over at my grandparents' house, and my tooth comes loose and falls down the sink while I'm brushing my teeth before bed. And I start screaming. I turn off the water. My grandpa comes. I'm like, turn off the water under the sink. He doesn't know what's going on yet, but he's like, whatever. There's a frantic child. I don't know what's going on, and gotta be important if there's water. I was like, okay. He like turned off the water under the sink because I pointed to it, told him where it was, and like asked him if he had a tool to take it off in a bucket, and we poured it out. I dunked my little hand into the big old bucket, and I pulled out my tooth, and I was like, yeah, I was like, good, because I was like, the fairy won't know where to come and get it if, if we don't have the tooth. And I found out later Tooth Fairy exists. She's real because types of entities that are created through mob type thinking that creates them to become real. But she was actually more like Saint Nicholas, who turned into Santa or whatever. Was like an entity, like the spirit of it. But she was called Saint Apolloina, and she was a someone who like went around and like made sure that people couldn't afford dental and took care of them and everything else like that. So in the end, like that, she was considered to be called the Tooth Fairy. Um, so I think that's just really cool that you can also like create, and you've got to be um, mindful, because a lot of other entities that can be created that we'll get more into next time with soul contracts and fractals and such. Um, But when you have a certain feeling um over and over again, it can turn into that type of entity. So you want to be sure what energies you're, entertaining. And a lot of the time, that's why when you're doing cleansings and stuff like that, they'll encourage you to play high vibrational music or have fun times, laughter, comedy, and stuff like that to replenish the area, because the area will be neutral at that point. You got rid of it, it's a neutral space, because all of the space around us in the third dimension is neutral, and it's our reactions that create the negative and positive charges, like science molecules. But when you're doing it with dreaming, like for symbolisms and stuff like that, if you're doing lucid dreaming, you can write yourself a script, because if you're giving yourself a blank canvas, like with Vanna, is like make sure you're going in with a plan. If you're giving yourself, hey, show me a dream, or like where I can like walk around and do what I want, and it's like, okay, but you might not want to be doing those things, you might not be wanting to walk up a hill forever and ever and ever and never reach the outhouse. You can definitely feel like you're right there. uh you could write yourself a script and then write in the diary the next morning what you remember your dreams, and if you remember more and more and more, you'll become more lucid. If you can't remember yourself, you can put rosemary underneath your pillow. um, and you can put it in a vial in case you have any familiars. So that way, if it gets knocked over from you rolling, or of course, if the pet tries to go over it, it will be safe. You can drink mugwort tea as well. That's very good for removing love spells as well. I don't know if I said that before in the previous ones of like protection, but you can do it for that. Um, Premonition, besides that one, yeah. I had a dream that there was these people robbing a tower with ravens in it, and I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I was looking up on like dream meanings and everything else like that, and like 3 days later, the tower for England, where they keep the ravens because of Rand the Blessed, uh the main raven disappeared. I was like, that's really weird and sad. And like a lot of times you can astral travel as well for good things. One time I was asleep and my friend was newly sober, and I had a dream that they were inside of the car of a truck driving, and I was in the back seat, and they were talking to their friends, and their friends were like, just come in for a couple of drinks, it's no big deal. And they were like, no, no, I'm really serious about my sobriety, and I'm gonna keep my commitments and just go home after this. And I woke up the next morning and I like messaged them, letting them know like, yo, I had this dream about you. You were in a truck and I was in the back seat, and you were really committed to your sobriety. And I'm sure this just means that I'm really proud of you. And I just wanted to let you know that you know you're killing it with the sobriety thing. Go you. And they were like, yo, I drove my friend last night in their truck as a DD, designated driver, like, because they normally have a car. And I was like, oh, why are they in a truck? And they were like, how'd you know I was in a truck? So, like, sometimes, like, when you have, you know, when you're protective of some people and you're really close to them, you can get information into their lives. So if you're really got to be mindful of the company you keep, if you don't want to know their dirty stuff, if you're doing the things, because that can tend to happen. One night I had a dream that my friend was standing at a till, and the orders just kept going and getting bigger and bigger. And I woke up and I was like, are you overworking yourself? Because I'm having dreams that you can't keep up with things. And they're like, I just took an extra shift. I was like, well, don't do that. So, like, it can be variety of different things. Sometimes it's just reminding you to check on your friends or give the, props and credit to the people who deserve it. And sometimes it can give you other warnings. Like, I've had a lot of, well, that was more of like just smells, but like sometimes your premonitions can be during the daytime. You can get um, your clairsenses, which we will go over, we've gone over. But you can have it during like the daytime where you have daydreams about things. That could be lucid dreaming as well, as if you're seeing things before it happens and you're like seeing things as they happen, like clairvoyantly. But if you are actively imagining how something's going to happen before it happens, so that's a type of manifestation, like Vanna was saying. But that is a type of lucid dreaming as well, because even though you're awake, doesn't make it any less of a dream. It's daydreaming. So if you're very good and active at daydreaming, you could possibly have an easier time moving over into the lucid nighttime dreaming. Is there any of the stories you wanted to tell about lucid dreaming or premonitions then?
So these can be very confusing, and I feel like they happen often in our childhood. And it's one of those things that we as children get taught to suppress and ignore, like, oh, you just have a really active imagination and stuff. But no, this stuff can be straight up horrifying. My mom told me a story from when she was very young, and due to her living situation, she was currently sleeping in the living room of this house that had like nine or so people in it. And on the opposite side of the wall that she slept on was her grandfather, Grandpa Bishop. And for weeks before it happened, she saw the exact order, medical reason, and happening of Grandpa Bishop's passing. And she saw it almost every single night sleeping against that wall. So, like Kymmy was saying, your proximity, it doesn't
Yep,
even, it's not even always just if you're emotionally close to this person. If you are physically around this person a lot, their energy can affect you and impact you in this way.
100.
And so she
100.
saw this for weeks before it happened, and then it actually happened, and then she was just like, wait, what? No. And she gave explanation, and it freaks people out, and that's why it's suppressed so much in our childhood. But these really are our natural innate gifts. These are things that our spirits have known forever. That's why it feels, especially to those that are psychically connected and inclined, it feels so natural that you're just dreaming, that this is just a thing that happens. It's
Yep,
very sad to me how our gifts like this get diagnosed and suppressed through medication.
it's true. True. I have dealt with a lot of night terrors and stuff from being next to people who, like, sleeping next to someone who is like abusive and stuff, and you can really absorb that, and it can bleed over. Like I know with my partner at the time, when he like slept over one time, he like left me his like his blade, because I had like my ex still wanted to come over and like bang on the door and stuff like that, just out of jail. And he was like, "Well, here's this blade. I'll make you feel better. I gotta go now." And I was like, "That makes sense." So I was like, "I'll talk to you later." And I fell asleep while holding it, and he was asleep too. And he woke up and messaged me. He's like, "Are you holding the knife?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can you not while you're sleeping?" He wasn't even near me. We were like far away. So that's like when you're giving items away or you're getting new items, it's very important to cleanse things down.
You
Um,
you just
yep.
reminded me of something that I face. Speaking of monitoring spirits, Um, the person that married that abuser in my family bloodline was a personal friend of mine from high school. And there was this vile necklace that I wore, and it had a cork, and I put lemongrass oil in it, and I wore that every single day to school. I realize now that was me carrying a little bit of Apollo on my heart, but this necklace became associated with my friend that ended up marrying into my family, former friend. Through that connection, this wasn't even something that was theirs that they gave to me, but because we had a correlation to each other between this item, it was a link back to them because every time I saw it, every time I wore it, it linked back to them. So,
Yep.
like, the jewelry that I was given by them, I have gotten rid of because it had their energy, their intentions, their malicious, it's putrescence, truly, energetic putrescence. It's like fucking Perryite from Skyrim. It is
True. So
disgusting.
true. But it's like that's the thing. Is like if you're going in there and you're lucid dreaming, just be aware that the other people can be in there, but like they're not going to take over your body. I know that a lot of media tries to instill that fear into us so that we won't go astral traveling as much, which is our where we're from. That's where we came from. We go home. We're only part-time working on Earth. Um, but like and that's why some people don't dream is because they're scared of that side, or they've done enough work in the there. A lot of people don't like an open book test either, so there's a lot of other reasons. So don't feel bad if you can't, or if you don't recognize that you're doing it, because for myself, one of the ways that the my fairy friend Caleb and Rob was able to like get me to be suckered into for so long was because I thought that I couldn't do it, that I couldn't meet them in the astral, that I couldn't meet them in the fairy realm, but I was doing it in these ways. I just didn't recognize it because I was chalking it up to being a dream and having an active imagination, things that you'll tell yourself. But even as such, I also was a way of protection as well, because they were key. Sometimes they won't let you dream when other people are wanting to do spiritual warfare through the astral realm. They're like, you want to know what? They need rest and they don't need this. So your guides will literally will just send you to the REM and leave and be like, yo, they need rest and you're not helping. So go away.
Yeah,
Which is
the Akashic records and these halls of Amentes, these places in other worlds, are also places where you can clean up things like that.
Yep,
My mom has described being in the school that the library is connected to. There's like a big school learning area. In in
yes,
in other world, it's like an entire town. So like you can navigate the streets and go to my house, go to her house, go to other
yep,
people's places. But in the school, there's the library, there are classes where sometimes we have been teachers, sometimes we have been taking the lessons, sometimes we don't know why the fuck we're there. But it's quite interesting cuz sometimes you will see other people walking in the school. And
yep,
like sometimes mom and I will see each other and we're walking together or we're walking independently with our own groups and we recognize each other, but we can also see like these aggressors and these trauma people that in our family that are here in otherworld. And this isn't to make us feel like they have to be there or like because we see them there they're supposed to be in our physical world. People can be in your physical world for reasons other than good. I firmly believe there are some people that come to this world to be trauma bringers, to be
yep.
the darkness, to be the villain in other people's stories. I also fully
It's
accept that I
part of
probably am that in other people's story, but it's very interesting when you see the people who are aggressors or negative in your 3D and physical world and what's happening with their soul. Like Kimmy said, I can't access their Akashic records, but
Nope.
it's like passing someone in the hall. If you have your awareness on, you might be able to see something. And there are people with a lot of shadows clinging to their souls because there are things they have not yet alchemized or may
Oh,
never alchemize in this lifetime.
that's one of the things I made sure throughout all of my practice of like being a divination reader online is like letting you know is that when you're calling your ancestors and calling upon things, not all your ancestors are for your highest good. Make sure you are being very intentional and only calling on the ones that you vibe with because, grandma wasn't the greatest sometimes in some families, she was kind of racist and shouldn't be called upon to ask, hey, should I get married to this person? She's probably gonna say no, and we don't know why. Grandma doesn't need to have an input. Uh, so like when you're calling on your akashic records, be also wary that in some of the lives, if you're not ready to face that, probably make intentions that you want the fluffy ones because, not all of your parallel lives are good. You weren't always the greatest. Even myself, I've had a few lives where I've saved people. I've had a few lives where I was the bad person and it's just like with my ex here, like you come around and you have to sometimes you repeat those cycles. Why? Because they're familiar. Much like with my ex, like when I was starting to go and doing a bunch of my past lives, one of the ones um he was he was married to me at the time and he set me up and I was on the town square and I could see that he was like being all gross and creepy on my daughter and he was like trying to get me out of the way. And so yeah, I broke away and grabbed one of the guns and shot him in the face. And
Rightly
then
so.
yeah, and then I was put to death over it. But in
Yeah,
this lifetime, we were still at each other's throats for whatever fucking reason. Because we couldn't let it go. We weren't even supposed to meet in this lifetime, but because our souls were so used to fighting in every other parallel life, we met anyway. I was told this by one of the soul contract readers. I was not supposed to. I was supposed to walk on past. We were just supposed to like meet for a second and just fucking dissipate, and it didn't happen that way, and like it can happen. I'll go over that more in the soul contracts for the next one, but like
you just reminded me of one of my only personal past life remembrances that I had. I think this one I it was somewhere very rocky and moorish, so I was thinking Scotland, Ireland, or Wales. Explains a lot about my personal deity obsession in this lifetime. But I
a lot of
remember
things.
I remember running and running and running and running and hearing people chasing me. What had happened was this lifetime I was married to a man that was, you know how in the Crucible, basically the entire witch trials was because this young girl wanted to be with a married man in town and he wasn't going to divorce his wife because Christian rules.
Yep.
It was a very similar situation that there was someone else my husband or partner wanted, and they had already taken the life of my daughter and blamed it on me. And so I was running and running and running and running in the woods. And I remember falling and falling and falling down like a cliff or a ravine or something. And my body was never recovered. And that was a protection that the gods were doing for me because if they had recovered my body or if they had found me, I would have had horrible things done to me. And so it's one of those things where like something horrible may have happened, but it was truly for the protection of my soul and spirit. That
Yep.
was a
Yep.
That was a
Ooh.
very difficult thing for me to experience because I had never seen or felt something quite like that. I had heard from my mom what her experiences were like, and like I sat with her before when she was having a remembrance, and I've seen several ones where she was in Egypt, where she was soldiers, and and like you said, we weren't always the good guys. This is one thing that Mama has brought up multiple times, is that some of the things that she has experienced in this lifetime is because she wasn't always on the air quotes good side, because I mean good is very subjective. If you are a
Goes
soldier
around,
in an
comes around.
army, if you are a soldier in an army, you truly believe you are fighting for good, but so is the person you are going against.
Yep. Goes around, comes around, and it comes around and hits you in the booty.
Yeah, well, we will definitely be
Because,
talking more about that in the next episode of Soul Contracts and uh soul ties, karmic contracts, things like that, because that ties directly into it. Like I was saying with the past life review, how you
yep.
see every interaction that you did with someone. It's not always like your biggest fight with your family. Sometimes it's when you cut someone off in traffic, and yes, you were rushing somewhere, but that person was going to the hospital, and because you cut them off, they got stuck in traffic in a light and they missed saying goodbye to their grandparents. Things
Yep.
like that. These small interactions that you have in this world create a massive ripple effect. And that's not to put this Damocles over you to make you feel like you have to be hyper vigilant of everything that you
You
ever do.
well, yeah, because you can choose which life you work on each one of those lessons. You aren't jam-packed like, "Hey, welcome to the end of the year. You have to do all of these extracurriculars or fail." It's like, no, you can pick which lesson and which life, and if it's too hard and you don't learn the lesson in that life, you're not penalized for it, and you can choose to do it 3. You're like, hey, that was hard, I didn't do it that well, and they'll let you have a couple of easy lives to like, so that you don't lose faith, and then you can come back and try again.
That's a very good point that you made, that there isn't really a right or a wrong. I think this is what people get very confused with the heaven and hell teachings that we go through, that what you experience and what you do in this world is going to decide where you go afterwards, whether you're going to be allowed into the eternal peace and love of heaven, or where you will be going to a place of eternal suffering and damnation. In my personal opinion, and again, this is an opinion, this realm is hell. This is the
Yep.
realm where we suffer for the things that we have done, where we are made to face our shadow and accept them and learn from our mistakes.
I feel like this is the realm of alchemy. It's whatever you make it. And some
Facts.
of us sign up for a harder round at the beginning so that we can have an easier sprint over the finish line. But I have a few more cool stories I want to get out for astral traveling. And like there's the one with my QHHT session. I will hopefully remember to place it down below in the link because there is a recording of it where I literally went through my whole life from being a young child, and it was a time before the Mayan pyramids, and I learned how to be a medicine person. But yeah, we that was one of the lives, and it was found out afterwards that me and my partner have been trying to meet up with each other for a while. And one of us ended up, passing away. That was one of the times too. And it was the last time that I had a child. That was one of the last ones where I was contract to have a child. But we'll go more into that in the next one, I'm realizing. But the one I know I can definitely do in this story one in depth was when I was dealing with the Fey realm, and I called them the Fang Gang, and I was dealing with them for 3 years, constantly spiritual warfare in and outside of the spiritual realm. Um, they were chasing me through the lower dimensional pockets, and I slipped through, to one of my parallel lives. And I was living the day in the life, and I knew I was seeing all these people, I was living the life and living the life, and halfway through the day, they all turned to me because it's a very magical time and realm. Um, which was why I was having so much fun living and being there, right? I was like, I just was running for my life, and now this is really cool. Um, but they turned to me and they were like, "You're not our sister. Where is our sister?" And I was like, um, okay, listen, I was asleep and I was chased through the dimensional pockets of the astral realm. This astral projection didn't go so well, and then I arrived here. I honestly thought this was another dream pocket, and they were like, "No, um, you magic shifted into one of your parallel lives. Have you done this before?" And I did. I have done it before when I was doing my QHHT session, which I don't think is really rare, but I don't think a lot of people talk about it as much as Dolores and what was his name? Nospart, Nostradamus. What is his name?
Nostradamus.
What? Yes, Nostradamus. Was connected with her because that was her past life, and they knew how to communicate to each other, which is what we apparently did during my quantum hypnosis therapy session. Was halfway through it when I went to the washroom. I went back in and I went back under into the meditation and traveled to my other parallel life. And they were like, "Oh, Kim's back and she's stronger this time." The other person talked to my hypnosis practitioner from the other life. They were like, "Oh, Kim's stronger this time." What? But the sister said, "You're not our sister." I was like, "Yeah, I was going through a dimensional pocket. I'm dealing with fairies and a very mean mentor, warlock person. And he's, he does dark magic and I don't know what to do." And they were like, "Well, we're going to send you back to your body because we need to know our sister's all right." And they're like, "We'll send you with this." And they gave me some sort of like satchel. Um, and they're like, "This will help you until you know what to do because we can't fight it for you, but we can definitely delay them messing with you." So this was more like, we want to help you, but we also want to make sure you don't take over our sister's body again type of feel, which I totally get. Like if it was like a witch's life, you don't want people taking over your sister's body, even if it's one of her other lives. So yeah, and I was like going to go to sleep, and there I was like, "I'm scared," and they're like, "It's gonna be okay," and they like set a enchantment to put me back to sleep, and I woke up in my own body, which like it bypassed all of the astral realm and sent me back to my own body.
Don't you
Um,
love being fast traveled?
yes. I know. It's like I didn't know there was warp speed. If there was hyperdrive, I would have enjoyed knowing there was hyperdrive for Astral. So yes, there is though, because I didn't know at the time because I was in denial and they were using that um imposter syndrome against me, which is sad because if you don't know yourself, people will tell you who you are. And yeah, so if you could write yourself a journal. Another way to protect yourself while you're traveling through the astral realms is putting um, a calcite, an orange calcite. It'll help you travel the Fey realm and Seelie and all that other stuff. Um, but rosemary, of course, will help you with everything. If you were worried and you've gone to a big event and a lot of people are like giving evil eye or they talk badly on you and gossip and stuff, and you don't want to have all those weird dreams that it like leaks over into. It happens to me a lot when I go to shows and events for the next couple of days. I'll have like what's going on in their life. I'm like, please no. Um, so what I'll do is I will take some cloves and put it next to my bed, like a couple of them, so that it can absorb it and like, and then I'll just get rid of them, tossing it, that trash energy away. Um, but yeah, it's lots of fun. It can be really, well, like I said before, like, I had that one dream where I didn't know about, rhapsodomancy, and that's why I told you back at divination. So, like, I had a dream where I was in a mute's lifetime, and I was reading off my own poems to give prolific messages. So, like, it can lead to a lot of different things. It could lead you to what divination type is meant for you. It can lead to a lot of different things. It just give you a little message, like, and sometimes it hurts, like with Vanna was saying about knowing that grandpa was going to pass away. It's the same thing with me. I got a visit from my friend who passed away, uh, not last summer, the summer before. He came to me in the dream because he was asking me, hey, can you teach me how to read tarot? And I was so excited. We would talk about all the metaphysical things and like the naga and all that kind of stuff, and it was super cool. And he came to me and he was like, I don't need you to teach me tarot anymore. And I'm like, what? Why not? I'm totally down for it. I'll teach you tarot. And he was like, yeah, no, I know more than you now. Have a good life, like, take care of yourself. And I woke up and got the call that he passed away. So he came one last time being like, haha, I know more than you. I know all the cosmic forces of knowledge now. And it was really sad. And I started crying because I was like, I wanted to teach you. He came back another time because we weren't taking it very well. And he came and showed me like, and my partner dreams of like him and the other choices he had to exit in this lifetime. And he was like, there was a lot worse ways to go. And we were like, okay, that makes sense.
That is
Um,
that is incredibly painful. I am sorry you had to experience that. Uh
yeah.
One thing that I am not afraid of personally is my mortality. I am
No,
comfortable enough with spirit and what I know of the Akashic records and otherworld that I'm just like, it's just going into the next room. That's really all
yep.
it is.
One card to another. It definitely is. It's more so of like, I'm just sad of what I'll be able to miss here. And I think that's what got me into this whole mess in the first place. So I'm gonna keep refraining from that. But like, there's a lot of times that like I've had astral travels like during a full moon. I was really sad. Didn't have anyone to celebrate with yet because at the time I liked celebrating it. Um, but I had it was like it was around the holidays, and I was missing my family and stuff like that. And so all my passed on loved ones that had grown up with all came, and it was like a really big turkey and all that kind of dinner, and there was a whole bunch of like a whole shelf of deviled eggs in the fridge, and it was like really cool, and everything tasted really good. But it was like, from the movie Hook, was anything really there? Well, I was in the astral. I made that sandwich. It tasted delicious, and then I came back home. You can have a lot of different experiences, and it doesn't have to be anything super extravagant either. Like, if you there was one dream where I was starting out learning how to lucid dream and like control the dream and stuff like that, and I think I was in it was either the Fey realm or the dream realm. I'm honestly couldn't tell you which. But inside the place, I was using my mind inside of the dream to pivot a box that was sliding off of the counter, and I got it to slide back onto the counter, and I was very excited about it. I was very enthralled, and I woke up very excited about it. I was like, yo, that box moved. Ah! So like, sometimes you don't even have to move it with yourself, it's like flying dreams and all those other cool stuff. And I think it's a lot of fun. And we can get into more of them in the future because I got so many I had to cut out and shorten and all that stuff because Akasha Records is a big deal
Yeah,
and I love sharing everything with you.
I absolutely love always hearing these things. It not only helps me remember that like the things I experience in a daily life are real, because like sometimes I'll talk and I'm like, oh yeah, I rolled my ankle in a fey trap, and I'll get looks from people and I'm like, oh yeah, you're a muggle. And then I'll get on and talk to my actual tribe and be like, nope, this shit is real. So like you're not going crazy. The rest of the world will tell you that you are because you're accessing something that they're telling us doesn't exist because it makes us too powerful. It puts us in our godlike strength
The
to
only reason why they can say that it doesn't exist because they burnt down the Library of Alexandria where it was all proven.
mm-hmm, louder for the people in the back. Anyway, I think this was a wonderful episode. Kimmy, so thank you so very much for all of your wonderful insight and experiences and fast traveling between realms. You ever just wake up and you don't know which astral plane you're in? Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I do. I really do. Sometimes it's not fun either. Like you can definitely, if you're having the negative dreams, just remember you can ask your guides to just make it stop. If you need, if you, it's because I know that some psychic attacks is by giving you nightmares to try and disrupt your sleep because disrupting your sleep is a very good strategy in the art of war. So if you notice that you don't have negative thoughts as much during the day, but you're still having like nightmares and the symbolism doesn't match up with the dream meanings, um, have a container with the like an opening lid with salt water next to your bed to help pull those energies out can help as well. But you can ask your guides, hey, I don't want any dreams tonight. I need really good proper rest. Please protect me while I do that. Um, because and also like sometimes you wake up and you're like you quantum shift even. It's not even about ending up in the wrong dimensional pocket. Sometimes you go to sleep, you did such work, so much shadow work the day before that you quantum jumped into a whole new another life, which is for a later date.
All right. I love you guys so much. Thank you again, Kimmy, for joining me. Brightest
No,
blessings to
thank
all of you.
you. Thank you, Vanna. You are incredible. You've come up with this concept as someone who like strives to be a mentor and learn things at the same time. It is refreshing to have that type of person as a co-host. So thank you very much. And thank you all the listeners for your support and love. It's a lot of fun getting to share with you. And if you want to share any of your astral travels or lucid dreams, premonitions, anything of the above, we would love to read them down below.
Absolutely. Brightest blessings, everybody.
Bye.